Hey guys, David Robinson here. Welcome to the Apartment Investing Journey. We've got a great guest on the show today. This is someone that I connected with a while back. We're in the same market here in Salt Lake. And we connected. I think we were talking about some different properties. And this individual has a pretty cool story that I think will be inspiring to a lot of the younger listeners that are just getting started on their journey. And so without further ado, Heaston Beacco, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Really excited. Looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
my pleasure. My pleasure. So just a little bit about Heston. Heston was born and raised in Salt Lake City. He's 26 years old, and he's been full-time in real estate since 2017. Started out as a licensed real estate broker and is now transitioned into not just the brokering side of the business, but also the investing side of the business. He recently took down an 8-plex in Salt Lake, downtown Salt Lake. So we're going to dive into that today. So that's just a little bit about you, Heston. We want to get the whole story. And so if you don't mind, let's back up a ways. Talk to us about, sort of the process that you've gone through to get to where you're at today. Back up to how you got into real estate, what you were doing before that, and let's go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So got into real estate really just kind of off of a whim. I was actually doing landscaping up in Park City at the time. And when I was really young, my dad told me the best way to figure out what I want to be is what I don't want to be. And might have taken that a little too close to heart, and had a lot of different construction trades, and did some different things on that side, and kind of figured out, I really enjoyed that side of things, but I could tell there was a better way to do it, right? I see these higher up people, even on the corporate level, and I'm like, yeah, you've got money and you've got wealth and all that, but your quality of life is not very good. And that was something I could just see like destroying me over time. And I always wanted to work for myself, and kind of got into real estate, like I said, off a whim. I don't know anybody, or I didn't know anybody in 2017. Listened to a couple podcasts, got that little purple book that starts a lot of people's real estate careers, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that kind of changed the paradigm in my thinking of, assets, liabilities, and just, it's all basic stuff, right? But you'd be really surprised how many even successful entrepreneurs to this day don't understand some of those basic concepts. And so that's really, I guess, where it took off. And then I decided to get my real estate license, got that, figured out within, a month or two. And keep in mind, the entire time I'm doing this, I'm kind of scraping by. Like I started working for a house flipper on a property up in Park City, who actually ended up becoming one of my really good friends and a great mentor who's really helped me a lot. His name is Mike Brenny. And I did a ton of landscaping on this massive flip he had up there. I think it was like a 16-acre property. And so I just worked with Mike for like 3 months right by his side, and he's sitting there digging trenches with me and stuff. And I'm like, man, I want to be where you're at. And I had just gotten licensed, and, I would just pick his brain and kind of take all that with a grain of salt. And then I kind of knew that I needed to figure out my market. And the best way to do that is to, join a team or find somebody who's where you want to be as far as the resident of the broker side, and kind of just grab their pocket and run with them until they tell you, get the hell out of my office. And so that's what I did. Joined a team over at Keller Williams with Mike Egan, phenomenal real estate agent. We're still really, really close friends, and another great mentor of mine. You'll kind of catch there's a theme to how I've gotten. I mean, a lot of people consider 2017 to now, a pretty fast track. I don't consider it that way. It feels like it's taken forever, but the mentors are the reason that, you're able to kind of scale a little bit quicker, at least for me personally. And so that helped me a ton. So I really just dove head in first, worked 60, 80-hour weeks for about a year and a half on his team, and, just kind of got burnt out.
What were you doing on his team during that time?
Really everything. I started with him. I was a showing agent. Then I, started working with buyers. And then it was like, all right, your listings. And so I was like, I'm just digging the trenches. I mean, I'm calling for sale by owners, and like, I love talking with people. I'm a
So
people
mainly,
person.
mainly on residential real estate.
Residential, yeah, exactly. And that, it sucked doing all those cold calls and everything, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because it really kind of shows you that you can kind of grow from that, and just makes you better at having conversations that are actually worth having with people. And I had really good success with that. I was right around like $9.6 million in sales my first year. It's like 24, 25 houses, something like that. So I did really well. It wasn't that I wasn't having success in it. I got burnt out quick, and I'm like, I'm gonna be out of real estate altogether if I don't, find my niche of what I actually enjoy. And I wasn't finding a ton of joy in that part of the business, so I kind of switched.
That's great. Let me back you up just a little bit. I'm curious, your upbringing. I think that's pretty cool that your dad told you that the best way to find out what you want to do is to find out what you don't want to be. What I'm curious about, sort of the model that he set. Is he in the contractor world, since that's where you
Yeah.
started?
Yeah, so my dad's in the energy world. My parents have been divorced since I was 1 year old, so it's all I've really known. And I've known my stepdad since I was 1 or 2, also. So it's I kind of have two dads in that sense. And they both have very different career paths. My dad has started off reading water meters for Utah Power back in the early '90s, '80s. Yeah, '80s actually. And he still works there now, and now he's head over all of their turbine safety and boiler divisions. And then the flip side, you have my stepdad, who has been self-employed for 25 years. And, he has his own IT computer business. And I kind of got to see both sides of that, right? That's kind of why I think the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book really stuck to me. And it's not that, one party is more wealthy than the other or anything like that. It's just kind of a lifestyle thing. They're both extremely successful, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do as far as working for somebody else and kind of making their wealth. I'm a lifestyle type of person. Everybody has to work, but there's a big difference between working smarter and working harder. So that's kind of where I switched there, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you read the Kiyosaki book, well, I think it was Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
And so what caused you to go and get your real estate license? Because there's nothing necessarily in Rich Dad Poor Dad that's going to indicate, hey, go become self-employed as a real estate broker. What was your thought process?
To be completely honest with you, I knew a guy who had gotten licensed a couple years before, and good guy, not the sharpest tool in the shed, you'd put it that way. And I saw the success he was having, and I'm like, dude, if he can do that, I can go. And that's not trying to be cocky or anything. I just knew that I saw the slight amount of success he had, and I'm like, man, there's something there. And it was honestly just ignorance more than anything. I'm like, hey, it's a couple $100. I've got some money saved up. I might as well do it. I have nothing to lose. And I was so burnt out on the landscaping thing that it was like I had left that career and I was done with it and kind of just ready to start from ground zero.
Anything was better than digging trenches, right?
Right.
Cool.
Hey, I can still dig one hell of a trench, I'll tell you.
Okay, cool. So that's great. So I am curious, you touched on this, and I want to dive into this a little bit deeper. Your first quote unquote mentor, the individual that was flipping the house, you mentioned that he was influential in this process for you. Tell us a little bit about that. What was so influential about it?
Just Brenny, he's a great guy. He doesn't sugarcoat things. I'm like, hey, I know I could call him with any questions, and I think kind of he might have seen a little bit of himself in me or something from a young age, because he kind of got into real estate by accident. And I kind of did also, but it was purposeful. But now where I'm at, I'm like, oh, I've just kind of slipped into this little niche, right? And so just kind of asking him some of the questions. And to be honest with you, he actually had a property that he was flipping in the avenues, and I had me and my girlfriend's lease was just like up, and I was just talking to him one day, and he's like, oh man, I got this house up in the avenues. It's red tag. I've had a couple people like, break some windows and stuff. And I'm like, all right. He's like, would you want to live there? And I'm like, yeah, how much? And he's like, you're good. Just like watch after it. You can pay some utilities. And I'm like, cool. So it was only supposed to be like a couple month thing, like 2 months. We ended up staying there for like 6-7 months, and without that, and being able to save that money and really just like, I'm not kidding you, 100 hours like every 2 weeks or more, just on like calls. That's not even driving to appointments and stuff. Like, I'm just on the phone for 10 hours a day, every day. And so I got
As
to
a
the point
broker,
where,
as
as a
an agent.
broker, as
Yeah.
an agent, yeah, exactly. Sorry, I should have specified, but, and you're not getting paid for those cold calls, right?
Right.
So being able to kind of like not have to really worry too much about living expenses for those few months really helped me out tremendously. And
That's cool. So it's sort of like a little bit of a foundation, a springboard, both as mentorship and creating an opportunity for you to reduce your living expenses while you made this sort of this professional transition from, you know, the contractor, labor, landscaping business into the real estate business, which, you know, a lot of people get into the business and think, hey, we'll just jump right in, make money right away. But as you know, and many find out, it's a slow process.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not one of those get rich quick. And I wasn't in it for a I'm going to go make 10 grand next month. You know, I knew if I didn't lay the foundation and learn what I needed to know as far as, you know, how to write a contract. I didn't even know how to write a contract. And like my boss at the time, this is when I was an agent, was going out of town, like leaving the country for 2 weeks. And he's like, he's got his bags all packed in his living room, and I'm sitting in his front room with him, and he's showing me how to write an offer before he leaves for 3 weeks. And he's like, he pretty much trusted me with the entire company at that point, while he was gone, just to kind of run things. And so like, again, you're thrown into the fire and they're like, man, this is scary, but it's kind of fun. And then you just kind of roll with it.
Okay, that's cool. So that was in 2017. If I have your timeline right, 2017, you got licensed as a real estate broker. You immediately joined the real estate team in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first, how long were you working on the real estate team?
So I left there, kind of transitioned out, would have been October, November of last year. So of 2019. Okay.
So about 2 years you worked with them?
Yeah, right around 2 years. And, you know, again, it wasn't like he knew that I had different aspirations, and he's also an investor as well. So, I mean, we still talk very frequently, and he's been an excellent mentor too. But it was kind of one of those things where I saw the light, in the sense that if I didn't make the shift and start focusing more on the investment side of things, which is really what I want to do and what I enjoy, then I would kind of get sucked into that realtor for life kind of thing. And I have no interest in doing that. It's not my personality type. You know, like I said, it's not something that I was terrible at. I was actually pretty good at it. It's just wasn't happy. And I mean, I think that says a lot, because money is not everything. And there's people that want to be rich, and there's people that want to be wealthy. I don't want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. And in order to do that, I knew I had to make the shift to the investment side of things, or I'm just going to have a job the rest of my life.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of agents that might be listening to this that that will resonate with. Okay, cool. So you worked on the residential side of the business for a couple of years, being mentored by a great agent who not only is a great agent, but also understands the investing side of the business as well, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then you started to think, okay, I've got to make this transition. Here I am pounding the pavement, pounding the phones like crazy, recognizing that this isn't the long-term vision that you have for yourself. How do you make that transition? And what is that looking like today?
Honestly, it kind of just got to that point. Like when, you know, I had a kind of a meeting of the minds with my former team leader, and just kind of told him, hey man, this is where I'm at. And he's like, you know, I can see it. It's all good. Like, don't worry about it. And I knew at that point, I was going to need some capital if I wanted to buy some long-term assets. So, had a partner, with a property who called me up, said, you know, you want to partner on this? We'll split it, yada, yada. Long story short, we made it a few months into that, and I'm like halfway through the demo on it, and the lights already switched. I'm like, this is going to be probably the last single family house I flip.
Okay, so you started with a single family. That was actually going to be one of my questions is,
yeah,
you know, now you have some focus on multifamily, but is that initially the pathway that you were going?
It was. And like I said, for me personally, I had the shift like almost instantaneously. I'm like halfway through the demo, and I'm like, why don't we scale this? Like, the amount of work it takes to flip a single family house if you have your systems and processes in place, even if you don't, I didn't know what I was doing. My partner, you know, he knew pretty well what he was doing, but he was much less involved, right? And so if you actually know what you're doing, man, like it takes the same amount of work to flip a 20 unit as it does to flip, you know, a high-end single family house, which, I mean, this wasn't even a high-end single family house. I could just kind of see the economies of scale, and I knew that that was where I needed to be in order to get to where I wanted to be long-term.
Okay, so you have this conversation with your team leader. You're working as a real estate agent. You have a conversation with the team leader saying, "Hey, look, this is the path that I want to take. This is the vision that I have." He's supportive of that. Says, "I understand." Did you quit cold turkey on the team and stop selling real estate altogether and just go, full bore into investing? How did that process work out for you?
No. So I am still licensed, and I still do a pretty fair amount of retail work, actually. On the residential side, not retail commercial space. So I just went solo. The amount of clients that I have and like to work with, I can manage pretty well by myself. And like I said, I don't really have a ton of interest in growing that side of my business right now because, especially kind of after the whole coronavirus thing hit, we're in a state now where I know there's going to be some really good opportunities down the road. And that's not to say, you know, buying and selling real estate for the general public isn't something that I don't see myself doing long term. I do, just on a lower scale and more investor focused.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That's very helpful. Thanks for explaining that. So how much of your time would you say you're devoting? Let's talk about what your world looks like right now, and then we're going to dive into this 8-unit that you recently acquired. But what does your world look like right now in managing what we'll call your day job, you know, the agent services portion of your business that's sort of the income producing, and then the investing side of things? What does your time commitment look like for both of those tasks?
So over the last few months, I've definitely tried to kind of slowly ramp that to where I want to be. As far as I would say right now, on average, I'm probably only putting about 40% of my time into agency work, and then the other 60% is just focused on multifamily right now. But again, you know, it does put food on the table, and I have a couple of really good clients that I do a lot of deals with, and so I'm always churning money there and keeping the pipe moving. But like I said, I don't have any interest in being rich. I want to be wealthy, and I know I have to have a larger portfolio to hold long term in order to accomplish that goal.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about then the first multifamily deal that you've done. This 8-plex in Salt Lake City. If you can, let's talk about the asset itself, and then we'll talk about how you source the deal.
Yeah, so great asset. For those of you that are familiar with the Salt Lake City, downtown area, this is kind of between Trolley Square and 9th and 9th. You could consider it kind of outer skirts of 9th and 9th area, which if you do know the area, it's absolutely smoking. It's my favorite part to buy a rental property in the city. I mean, you've got a lot of different businesses right there. You're a short commute to downtown, not to mention the hospital and the University of Utah are less than 5 minutes away. So location is absolutely amazing. Asset was built in 56. So it's a 2-story. They're all homogenized units, which we really love. And we're finding out now as we're going through the renovation is just making it so much easier for our contractors to kind of just rinse and repeat. So I really enjoy that. They're all 1 bedrooms, just over 500 square feet, and doing a pretty extensive remodel on that. We can dig into that a little bit more if you want. But
okay, cool. And how did you go about finding it? How did you source the deal?
It's actually really funny how I came across. So personal friend of mine hanging out one night, and he's like, I gotta run home. I gotta go meet an appraiser in the morning at like 6:30. And I'm like, dude, you live in an apartment. Like, I've been to your house. What are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, yada, yada, yada. My uncle owns it, and they're thinking of selling. And I'm like, I just light up like a kid in the candy store, right? And this is like pretty closely after I kind of got that switch of like, oh, multifamily. And I mean, we're talking like June, July of last year is when I first talked to the sellers of these properties. So come, I bugged him for a month or so. I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's your uncle's? You got to give me his info. And at first he's like, I'll talk to him. I'll see if it's all right. Finally gets the go ahead. So I get the uncle's information, and I start hounding him, telling him what I'm about, and yada yada. And I mean, the one thing that I'll really stress to everyone if you're new is just be transparent. I mean, people see through if you're trying to feed them something that isn't true. Don't lie. Like if someone's like, hey, what's your experience in multifamily? Say, I've never done a deal, but I'm going to do one, and I have the team and the people behind me in order to accomplish that. I mean, that goes a long way with people. I probably wouldn't have gotten these deals if I had approached it from a more aggressive standpoint of like write an offer day one. I mean, I built this relationship for months.
Let's talk about the process for that. What were the conversations like initially, and then how long did you follow up? It sounds like you initially connected with them in July of last year. What was the initial conversation like, and how many times did you have to follow up? What that process look like?
Oh man, follow-up times, who knows? Probably I probably had over 100 conversations between the sellers by the time the whole thing was shaken out. But I mean, it really just started off as, hey, I'm interested in these properties if you guys are going to be selling them. And of course, it's one of those, like they typically are, it's in a trust. You typically have 3 to 4 family members. I like to say they all usually want something different, because that's typically the case in my experience. You kind of can't, it's really hard to get everybody to meet up on the same page there. Luckily, I was communicating directly with the trustee, which did help a lot, but there's a lot of moving pieces in that when other members of the trust are attorneys and whatnot. So quite a large amount of jargon on the document side. But I mean, going back to kind of building that relationship, I mean, they wouldn't really give me the time of day for the first couple months. They're like, this kid's 25 at the time, 25 years old. Like, I mean, yeah, he seems like a hustler and he's going to get stuff done, but like, does he have the ability to close on that? And, I just told him, me personally, I don't, but I know people that do. And I know people that are actively doing that. And those are the types of people that I'll be doing business with. So that's kind of where, after, so many phone calls, probably took 30 or 40 of them to kind of build some rapport, which again, goes back to doing those cold calls when I was an agent. I learned how to kind of shoot down some of those objections and kind of overcome to find a win-win. And after 3-4 months, we finally were, all right, I'll let you, write us up an offer. And it was a portfolio. So that's the other thing. They wanted, there was 2 other properties. They wanted all 3 to be sold in one. And I really liked 2 of the deals, but I didn't like the third one. And the third one was almost enough for me to not pursue the other ones. And I actually was talking with a different mentor, Mike Baird, who's also really well-known investor and coach throughout Salt Lake and really across the nation. And I had mentioned kind of the general specs of the deal to him. He said, yeah, but they want this third one. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do it. And I was kind of backed off, and he just looked at me and he's like, I highly suggest you reevaluate and reapproach those deals to see if you can find something that works. And so I did. And by the time everything had shaken out, I had taken, you had Jordan Atkin on recently. He's one of those partners in that deal that he had talked about on there was actually from this portfolio. So Jordan and I had a relationship, and I knew that was in his sweet spot and something that he would be interested in. And, we made it work.
What was the third property that wasn't very interesting to you?
It wasn't interesting just because it was an older asset, and it was
Gotcha.
up kind of by the Capitol. It was on Center Street. And they wanted way too much for it, and they wouldn't come down for whatever reason. They thought this one property was their honey hole, and 1920s asset that I wasn't super confident in. I'm sure it's not a bad deal, but it's not a great deal. And
so were you able to make the deal work with just the 2?
I was.
Okay, cool. So
Yep.
they even though they were hard fast wanting all 3 of them to be sold in the same transaction, you were able to make it work with just the 2, and they're still working whatever they're going to do with that third one.
They got the third one sold, actually. So somebody did buy that. It didn't fit in my portfolio. These two that we're talking about now that we did end up getting, they're very close to each other. They're right in that area, and so I really like those properties specifically. And they could have sold all three together for sure. But again, tenacity gets you a long way when you're just, I mean, bickering and bugging them. You know, you got to bug them until they finally give in. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to show that you're really interested and you're going to perform on the property, sometimes people will make exceptions for that.
That's great. So, okay. So we've talked about the asset itself. We talked about how you sourced it. Let's talk about how you structured the deal.
Yeah. So back to the 8 unit, my partner on that, his name is Greg Ward. Awesome. Super happy I met Greg. Actually met him at one of Mike Baird's investor meetups here in Salt Lake. And we connected, and, you know, we had kind of straight off the bat really like-minded goals and had been in a similar situation. He's also an agent. He's been an agent for about 8 years longer than me. So he has a lot more experience on that side, but also has kind of the same exact idea of how he wants to kind of build his wealth. And that's the biggest takeaway that I've had through this whole process. Find people that are doing and want to do what you want to do, because if you guys have conflicting business plans and different ideas of how the operation is going to work, there's going to be implosion. I can guarantee it.
Okay. So how did you structure the deal with him?
So we're just 50-50 partners on this. It's a long-term hold. He brought the capital for our portion of the debt on it. And then once we refinance out, if there is any cash in the deal at that point, we'll be 50-50 on that. And I'll come to the table with some additional cash. And he's also getting a return off the capital that he's put in. It's fair. And like I said, we have like-minded goals, and it's got to be a win-win for everyone involved. And sometimes some wins are bigger than others for other people, but you know, partnerships are all about working together and kind of making it a win. Because if you're shorting your partner or you're not seeing things from their point of view, I mean, that's kind of a reflection of your own controlledness, and you probably shouldn't be in a partnership. You should just work for yourself. So,
okay, cool. So, what was the actual purchase price?
$925.
Okay, so $925. You brought on a partner to help you take it down, and so what was the debt structure on it?
We actually got really, really attractive debt on this. It's short-term bridge loan. It's we're at 7.5%, and we paid a point at closing. So super attractive debt, and that's on a 12-month with no prepayment, or we can't. Essentially, there is a prepayment before 6 months. So between 6 months and a year, we're fine. If we went over the year for some reason, which there's no way we're going to do, it would be an additional half point. So super attractive debt, especially for your first commercial deal. This was also Greg's first commercial deal. So that was a big learning process, and going through that entire process from start to finish it was amazing. We learned so much, and it's like taking a class at college, but much more beneficial.
Yeah. So, okay. So you, $925 purchase price, you got a 75% LTV, bridge loan, 12-month bridge loan, 7.5%, 1 point up front. And then, I assume you had, a capital improvement plan, business plan, value add plan for this project. What'd that look like?
We do. Yeah. We're putting, our numbers are right around 180 grand into it when we're all said and done. Greg and I kind of like to go a little bit over the top sometimes. So, you know, that number might be slightly closer to 200, but, it's going to be right around there. And, we also got 75% or 70% LTV on the,
interesting. On the capital
on the
improvement.
reno.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I really like the way we structured that. For the most part, there's been a couple things that we've kind of worked through, you know, with deposits with contractors and stuff like that. It can kind of get complicated with taking draws and stuff. But overall, I mean, I think it's been an excellent experience so far with our lender on it. And, you know, the next ones are going to be just that much easier because we'll have that established trust with them. And
yeah, that's cool. I like what you did there. I'm just running some numbers real quick. If the CapEx is 200 and you're at 70/30 on that, you got 60 there plus the basically roughly 230 that you brought to the table as a down payment on for the debt.
And we also put some money in for interest reserves. So it's a little bit more than that. We had about 6 months of interest reserves in there, which kind of going to the timeline. I don't want to skip around too much, but we closed on this on March 3rd.
2 weeks before.
Let's just say if it was 2 weeks after, this conversation would be much different, and I might not be here as a property owner. So we're really thankful that we kind of caught that wind in time.
And just to clarify, you March 3rd, 2 weeks prior to basically lockdown for COVID-19.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry, I should have specified that a little bit. But
this will air probably in a month or so. So we'll see. So you're roughly all in at roughly $300,000, give or take, on a $925,000 acquisition. That's great. So with the 180 to 200K that you plan on doing Capital X, prior to all the chaos happening with the virus, what was the plan going in? What kind of renovations were you going to do with that 200K?
So actually, we are still moving forward with our full renovation. We're going to get this thing done, and by quarter 3, quarter 4, we're going to be renting it out for exactly what we thought we would. And
I guess you probably have to with the bridge loan.
Kind of have to, but I mean, we could ride it out a little bit, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot of upside in that strategy, in our opinion. It's like, well, we already have everything kind of set to go. Plus, the building isn't fully vacant right now either, so we've been kind of working on getting some of those older tenants out too. So I think with kind of how we're going to approach it, we're hopefully going to be all right. We'll see what happens with the commercial lending world. There's kind of a lot up in the air right now, as far as if those values get lowered when we do go to refinance. But we're just going to have to kind of see.
So of the 8 units, are you planning on renovating all 8 units?
Correct.
Okay. And how many of them are currently occupied and vacant, or were they when you actually acquired the property?
So there's 2 vacant units when we acquired the property, and that was based off of my recommendation. Those had come up vacant in like November, December. And I'm like, hey, don't fill those units, please. Like we had hard earnest money at that point too. So it's like, you know what, we're not going to walk. And that was the other thing, is I ended up getting a 90-day due diligence on this from signing, which I've come to find out is pretty hard to get. So it just kind of goes back to making that relationship beneficial and something that sellers can kind of trust you with. But where
are you at in the capital improvements?
Yeah, so we have 2 vacant units when we bought it, and then actually all but 2 of these units were Salt Lake housing, which essentially, for those of you not in Salt Lake, I mean, it's a state program that's essentially Section 8, right? The state is paying the majority, if not all, of the rent. So again, there's still been cash coming in. So we didn't see as much of a dip in April as some other landlords that are more in stabilized assets right now did. That being said, we also had 6 months in interest reserves, so we feel a little bit insulated from that. But regarding that, there's 4 vacant units that'll come up at the end of May. And then the additional 2 will be vacant. We're looking at potentially buying them out a little bit because they are a little bit later. I think one is August and the other one might be September. But
just to get the CapEx done.
Just to get the CapEx done and get new tenants in there. Didn't have the best tenant portfolio when we purchased it, and just really mismanaged property. So that it's been a large management play as well. But we have a third-party property management company handling most of that for us. And so with that being said, we're actually getting HVAC done right now on the 2 units, and then we'll continue to roll on those. Those 2 will be completed. We're at least scheduling for about 3.5 weeks from right now. So they're going to move really quick once we get kind of that bulk of the work done. We are putting a little bit more into them as far as really changing, not necessarily the outlet, but more the functionality. We're putting in washers and dryers in all the units. And then in order to do that, we have to tear out the old furnaces that were framed into a hallway closet, which we already tore out, and we're doing a ducted mini split system up in the ceiling. So it'll be pretty interesting, but it should work great.
Are you doing any exterior improvements?
Some exterior improvements. I'm not a big fan of painting brick. I know it looks good. if we were going to flip this, we would probably paint the brick, but with it being a long-term hold, I'm a big fan of mid 50s builds. My house was built in 55, and this was built in 56. So we are going to be doing some new banisters and a new roof, obviously, all new soffit and fascia, and then kind of clean up some of those general areas and do a nice big sign out in front, and, you know, just add some more curb appeal because it doesn't really have that right now. But it does also have 8 covered carport spots in the back. So we do have some covered parking. I mean, it kind of checks all those general boxes. Especially with where it's located, street parking is not plentiful.
Awesome. Cool, man. And then what kind of interior improvements are you going to make? A total renovation?
Total renovation, yeah. All cosmetic besides the stuff I kind of mentioned, and some basic electrical, move a gas line in one location, but all new cabinets, flooring, replace a window here and there. The windows are actually in pretty good condition. And then a full new bathroom, all new custom vanities, doors, base, case, paint, you name it. They're going to be really nice when they're done. So, and it's not like we're not going to be in that top price point for rents in the area, but it's going to be competitive. I mean, people love a washer and dryer in their units, especially over there where a large amount of the tenants don't even have cars and they just bike everywhere. Yeah. It's going to be a big advantage for us.
Man, well, that sounds like a great deal. I appreciate you taking some time to walk us through some of the details on that. I want to start winding down here, but I got 3 questions for you before we wind down. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. What's the biggest challenge you have faced or the biggest mistake that you've made on your investing journey thus far?
I'm going to say not taking action sooner. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh man, this guy, like people that are listening to this are like, this guy has barely been in real estate for 3 years and he's talking about not taking action sooner. I mean, I could have taken action 6 months before that and I might be on my 2nd or 3rd one now. You know what I mean? So not taking action sooner and not partnering with people with like-minded goals straight off the bat. That's like the number one thing. It's like, if you can interview your partner, I would do that.
Cool. Love it. What's the biggest win you've had so far on your apartment investing journey?
I think really just taking this thing full scope from start to finish with Greg. I mean, it's a massive learning experience. People can tell you about it all day, right? Like I can call people and say, oh, what do I do here? And my lender's saying this, should I do that? Or should I call this other guy? And it's like, until you're actually doing it and looking at the papers, signing documents, it's not the same. At least for us. I mean, the way I see it, you've got to take action. And like, and I know that's such an oxymoron. Everyone says that, like, oh, take action. But like, seriously, like, fail forward. I'd rather have imperfect action than perfect inaction any day of the week, because there's no such thing as perfect inaction. It's just sitting there. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? So you gotta, at some point, you just gotta go. And if you don't, you're going to be in the same position forever.
And maybe you've already answered this with that answer there, but what's the best advice you have for someone who's just starting their investing journey?
Find a mentor for sure, or mentors. You become, and people say there's no such thing as dumb questions. There kind of is. I mean, you know, is it dumb to take a bite out of a glass bottle? Yes, that's stupid. And you shouldn't ask that question. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to ask questions in order to get that information and learn the things that you need to know. There's so much stuff out there that you're never going to know it all, right? But unless you're asking questions, it's really hard to grow and learn more. And honestly, you'll pull things out from questions. You're like, man, I didn't know that. And then you'll find yourself using it again on things where it actually is applicable. So, I mean, really just become a sponge and absorb everything you can and surround yourself with the right people. And you can do it. I promise you, if I can, you can do it.
Well, Heston, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us. You've had a pretty cool story going from, you know, digging trenches with a landscape crew to getting your real estate license and pounding the pavement, you know, hours and hours of phone calls on the residential side, and then pursuing your passion of getting to the investing side of the business and taking down this 8-unit deal. No small feat in a very short period of time at a young age. So congratulations to you. Thanks for sharing that with us. How can our listeners connect with you, learn more about what you have going on, and just connect?
Yeah, always happy to. I mean, Facebook's usually the easiest for that kind of stuff these days. I'm not as active as I should be on social media, but you can always reach out to me by phone, email, LinkedIn, Instagram. I mean, I'm on all the channels, and I'm always happy to have a conversation with anyone. Seriously, call me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I mean, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty transparent in that fact. I'll just give you the information I know because, you know,
Do you want to
it helps everyone.
do you want to give your contact info out so people can reach out to you?
Yeah, best phone number for me is 801-694-9736. And then the best email is just the letter H, my first initial, last name, Beacco, Homes, HOMES @gmail.com. And
Okay.
then just Heston Beacco on any social media. Shoot me a message. I'm happy to chat or hop on a call anytime.
Cool. And we'll have contact info in the show notes as well. So please reach out to Heston. Heston, again, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your journey with us, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Much appreciated, David. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.